we're not done. We started the studio in 2007. And we started working on ESO right away in terms of like figuring out the lore and the setting and all that other stuff. And just looking back at what we had originally envisioned and then where we are today is mind-blowing. Like, you go into these things thinking, yeah, we want to last for a while. You don't go in thinking it's going to be 18 years. When we first launched ESO, we were trying to find this kind of happy medium between MMO and Elder Scrolls. And we tried to walk that line there and appeal to everybody. And we didn't really hit either side particularly well. And we had to learn, like, what is the type of game we're trying to make? And when we finally decided that it's Elder Scrolls first, MMO second, all of that started to come together. And we really started to make progress on improving the game, delivering features and content that players were actually excited about and having fun playing. And that was a huge moment for us. And it, looking back, it's kind of like this duh moment. Like, yeah, of course, know what you want to make. But we were so worried about fitting in that we didn't really think about what we wanted to be. This is something that we've been wanting to do for a very long time. We just didn't know when the time was going to be right, and we figured 10th year celebration, it makes sense to kind of go back to it. So we're going back to revisiting the base game story. This is the first time we're really advancing time and also treating this like a true sequel. So I'm really excited for subclassing, which is the ability for you to use other classes' skills. So there's some rules in there. You can only have, you have to keep your main class that you chose skill line. So you can choose up to 2 other class skill lines to do that with. But now you get to like mix and match all of the different abilities that are out there. I think the designer that designed the system, she says that there are over 3,000 possible combinations of abilities and skills to use now, which is nuts. There's a million ideas that have been left on the cutting room floor over the years. But it's interesting, we've been able to revisit some of those things and add to them. So, initially we were like, what is the setting, obviously? How do we carve our own path through this rich tapestry of lore that's been built up over, gosh, when was Arena launched? In 94? Right? I think Arena was launched in 1994, mm-hmm. So however many years that is from when we started. And how do we like carve a path in there? And then once we got through solving kind of some of that stuff, it was, okay, how are we going to tell stories? And then when we got through that stuff is, how are we going to get people in game and playing? And so they just keep kind of compounding and compounding and compounding. But like I said, there are a million ideas that we just cut because, we can't do that. Technology won't let us do that. It's never going to fit in a giant space with all these players. But we've slowly been bringing them in. Housing is a really good example of that. When, I've always wanted to do housing, and we always wanted to do it for launch. And we just couldn't, given the technology we had. And we had to think about it for a number of years in terms of, how would we actually implement this? And what are players actually looking for in a housing system? And it turns out the most important part of a housing feature isn't that you can have a house specifically in a particular area. It is you give players the tools to create whatever they want and just let them run wild. When we landed on that kind of concept, and it didn't matter if you could make ugly things or pretty things or whatever, just give the players the tools, that completely changed what housing became, and it's our stickiest feature in the game right now. Some players have said the last few years have been a little formulaic in terms of how we tell stories and kind of doing the same thing. We're changing that, and we have big plans.
They say never to read the comments online, but you're clearly reading the comments online.
So yeah, it can be painful at times, yes. But I mean, again, we wouldn't be here today if we didn't read those comments, and if we didn't listen to the community, if we didn't participate and do all the things that we do. Sometimes it is absolutely soul crushing to read that kind of stuff, but in general, people aren't going to take the time to complain about something if they're not passionate about it, if they don't love the thing. They just want to make it better and it to be better.
Your soul shall be mine.
In terms of new features that we add to the game, or new products that we add into the game, we have a pretty long runway for that kind of stuff. It takes a while to build all the art. It takes a while to build the quests and stories and whatnot. So we are generally 12 to 18 months in the future from everybody else, and just kind of rolling teams through that process. So they're already working on, and mostly through at least some of the initial production stuff for update 48. We're already working on 49 and 50 stuff as well. So yeah, like there's a lot of teams that are moving at very different and working on very different things, all at the same time. The thing that I'll keep saying over and over and over is we're not done. Like there's so much more that we want to do. We have so many ideas of things we want to do and continue to build and stories to tell. And we're, as long as players continue to play and want to have more stuff in game, we're gonna support that.